So I decided to share my story, and I'm definitely going to be sharing the process of it all, the good days and the bad days. I am 4 months pregnant, 4.5 months pregnant to be exact. At 16 weeks pregnant, my doctor wanted to do a blood test, right? And that blood test, what it does is it just tells you if the baby's blood is traveling correctly from the spine to the brain. They tell you this should be your level. Depending on how high it is, there's a chance that the baby has an open neural tube defect. Get an email that says your test results are ready. I start seeing this patient is at a very high risk of having a baby with an open neural tube defect. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? And I start seeing it like in red letters. I start going through this freaking rabbit hole, right? And I start going on the internet. So I come to find out, number one, it could be spina bifida. It's like a spine defect, right? And this is not curable. The second one could be that the baby's missing a portion of his brain, and that those babies that are born like that usually die within hours or days after being born. So let's get into it. What's up, everybody? My name is Illy. Welcome to my channel, Our Stories Podcast. So I know I haven't really done the type of video that I'm supposed to be doing, which is a podcast. Honestly, I've just been feeling like a little bit discouraged of the process and everything, like finding out how everything works just to get everything started. So I've just put a pause. But now I do feel like I'm going through something in my life where I feel like either one, I can help someone out, or two, my story just might help someone out. I am Christian. I am not a saint, but I do believe in God. I do believe in obeying God as much as I can. And in this earth, we have one homework and one homework only. And it's not partying, and it's not drugs, and it's not living a crazy life. Is leading souls and people to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And if we don't do that, then what are we doing here? Aside from paying bills and working hard and raising children. So I said, if I can use this platform to inspire someone and help someone grow their faith, then so be it. I will definitely do that. So I decided to share my story, and I'm definitely going to be sharing the process of it all, the good days and the bad days, okay? The raw truth of it. And okay, so let's get into it. I am 4 months pregnant, 4.5 months pregnant to be exact. And at 16 weeks pregnant, my doctor wanted to do a blood test, right? And that blood test, what it does is it just tells you if the baby's blood is traveling correctly from the spine to the brain. So the way that you're able to do that is by a specific protein level that's on your blood, right? So they tell you with your weight, your ethnicity, your height, how far along you are, your due date. They tell you this should be your level, right? And if it's lower than that, then there might be a chance, depending on how low it is, that you're having a baby that has Down syndrome. Or if it's high, depending on how high it is, there's a chance that the baby has an open neural tube defect. So I did the test, right? Not thinking anything of it because I have 2 healthy babies. And the following day, this was on a Tuesday, the same week of Thanksgiving, and the following day was a Wednesday. I'm at work. I received the test results online, right? Like, I get an email that says your test results are ready. And usually for every test that I've done with my doctor, of course, I get it through the portal. They've never had to call me because it's nothing bad. They usually address it on like the next appointment that I go to. And this one specifically, I saw it literally like a few seconds after it was posted. And I start seeing this patient is at a very high risk of having a baby with an open neural tube defect. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? And I start seeing it like in red letters. I start seeing the actual like amount of what I got, which was like a 5.16 or something like that. And I start going through this freaking rabbit hole, right? And I start going on the internet asking ChatGPT questions like what this is. So I come to find out that it could be one of two things if it has to do with the baby, right? So number one, it could be spina bifida. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I believe that's what it's called. So that is when the baby it's like either missing like a portion of the spine, a little piece of the spine, or if the spine curves. So it's like a spine defect, right? And this is not curable. It's not curable when the baby's in the womb. It's not curable when the baby's born. It's just not curable. It's treatable, right? And I'm like, okay. And then I see the second one, and the second one could be that the baby's missing a portion of his brain, and that those babies that are born like that usually die within hours or days after being born. So of course I start crying more, I start freaking out more. And I'm not gonna lie to you, because I want to keep this as honest as possible. I sat there on my chair at work. It was 4:30, and I'm crying, and I'm here thinking, am I gonna have to be put in a position to end my pregnancy, you know? And again, I'm not a saint, but I am Christian, and I try to obey God. So I definitely don't believe in that. I don't believe that I have that kind of choice, you know? And I guess that is the most scary part for me, having to be put in a position where I know something is wrong 1,000%. And if God decides to take my baby within hours or days, or even when he's still in my womb, then I will accept that. And because that is his will, and I will go through my pregnancy. My fear is having a baby that will be in pain their whole life, you know, and them asking me like in their teenage years or adulthood, like, if you knew that this was gonna happen to me, why did you decide to put me through this? And that is my biggest fear. And the quality of life of that child, you know. So I've always asked God, just don't put me in a position where I feel like I need to make a decision, because that's the only thing that I do not want. So I call the doctor's office, and they tell me, okay, we'll have the doctor give you a call right back. And because he was with another patient at the time, and they had just received the test results themselves, and he hadn't reviewed them just yet. So I'm like, okay. He calls me back within 10 minutes. And of course I start crying, and he calms me down. He's an amazing doctor, honestly. And he's just like, hey, I need you to calm down. I understand that seeing some results like this would freak you out and make you nervous and all of that. And he's like, but there was a mistake that the lab made, and they put your weight wrong. They put that you were 60 pounds less than what you really are in this test. It needs to be exact with the due date, ethnicity, weight, height, and 10-15 pounds will make a definite, like, it will give you a false positive, just 10 to 15 pounds, and for you it was 60. So I'm like, okay. He's like, we're gonna use the same sample, and we're going to redo the test using the correct information, and let's go from there, right? He's like, either way, book your ultrasound, which is like a fetal ultrasound where they see everything like detailed for the baby, right? Like the brain, the spine, the everything basically. So I'm like, okay. This was on a Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So for Thanksgiving, I didn't do anything. I'm like, I do not want to go to anybody's house because I don't want nobody asking me, how's the baby, how's this, how's that, how are you feeling, because I just knew, it was too recent and I was gonna start crying, and I didn't want to be like the sad story at the party. I got the test results the following week. I believe, I want to say either Tuesday or Wednesday, right? I talked to the doctor, and the doctor tells me that the results are still coming back pretty high. Before, they were like at I think like a 5.16. Now they were at a 4.13, which is still pretty high. They say that whenever they come back like 2.15 or higher, that is a cause for concern already. So that mine was pretty high. And of course, I start crying again, like, oh my God, why is this happening? I start calling to have, the ultrasound as soon as possible. So they were able to squeeze me in this past Monday, right? So my husband and I, we get the day off and we start going to the appointment. And we waited. When the lady is about to start doing the ultrasound, she starts asking me a couple of questions, and I start crying, and I'm like, I'm freaking out that my baby's not okay, that something is happening. And as she starts taking a look at it, she just tells me the spine is perfectly fine. That's the first thing that she took a look at, and then she took a look at I think it was the heart, then the stomach, and then I don't know what else. And then I'm like, how's his brain doing? And so she takes a look at the brain, and she's like, your baby looks beautiful. She's like, if there was a defect with his brain, the brain would look like a banana. It wouldn't look like an 8, how you see it here on the ultrasound. So I'm like, okay. That starts making me feel better. So she's like, and I don't see anything wrong with the placenta. Like, the ultrasound came back great. So then the doctor comes in, because we got a consultation too right after the ultrasound, and she tells me that they did not see not one thing that they did not like from the ultrasound, and that is very unlikely for them to not catch something in the ultrasound, right? So she's like, that we have 2 options, because the test results still came back very high, and we need to find out why that's happening. So I said, okay, what are my options? And so she tells me, 1, we can draw some blood again, and we can redo the blood test. If the levels stay the same, or if they're lower, then that's a good thing. If the levels come back higher, then for her it would be a concern already, right? So then we can revisit the second option, which was like do an amnio test, which that's when they put the needle through the umbilical cord and they get a little bit of like the liquid that the baby has in the womb, and that will tell you 100% like if it's the baby or if it's a placental issue. So I said, okay, let's do the blood test for now, because I really want to avoid doing the amnio, like if I don't have to. So she's like, no, I'm with you there. So we do that, right? This was a Monday. Yesterday night, Tuesday, it was like 8:30 p.m. She calls me. No, it was like 8. She calls me and she tells me, she's like, look, I just wanted to give you a call because we got back the test results, and I didn't want you to see the portal and freak out. I wanted you to hear it from me and tell you, my thoughts, what's happening, and that it came back higher. And she's like, that we could consider the amnio test. But she's like, the thing is that I don't see nothing in the ultrasound that calls my attention. So as of right now, I have an appointment with her monthly until the month number 8, that I have a weekly appointment with her where they go ahead and make sure that the placenta is working correctly. So in the next appointment, which I have on January 8th, we're gonna see again, the baby. We're gonna see again the placenta, how it's doing, if it's aging faster than the baby, if the placenta is working how it should be working. And she's like, and if we see something that we don't like in the ultrasound, then that's when she would suggest the amnio test. The point of this story is, this time around when I heard the news, I didn't feel like crying. I just felt like, okay, this is happening, and I genuinely feel like the enemy is attacking me. And I'll tell you why. When I found out that I was pregnant, just so you know the backstory, my husband and I, we were fighting a lot. We were going through it. And I was driving home, literally with the radio off. And I didn't want to hear nothing. We needed, I think, some milk and avocados at home. So I stopped at the grocery store, and that same day, actually, I said, damn, that's so weird, I haven't gotten my period. And I come to find out that I wasn't, like, not even 1 day late. It's just that usually on the 1st I would have gotten my period, and my period is like pretty spot on. So I'm like, that's weird, I haven't gotten it. Okay, I'm just gonna take a pregnancy test, right? I hadn't been feeling nauseous. I hadn't been feeling nothing different. Everything the same, just more hungry, honestly, a lot more hungry. And I'm at the grocery store, in my car, in front of the grocery store, and I just start crying and crying. And I start praying to God, and I just said, God, I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of trying to find happiness in like little things, in my kids and my spouse mostly, my work, everything else but God. And I would always say, He is the only thing that makes me feel full. He's the only thing that makes me feel happy with purpose in life, because I live in Miami, and the traffic here is hectic. And even if you work 20 minutes away from your job, the traffic is going to be like an hour and 20 minutes just because of the amount of traffic. So I have to wake up really early to get to work. I get to work when I get out. There's an immense amount of traffic. So I literally see my kids for maybe like an hour and a half if I'm lucky a day. And on the weekends I'm with them. But it feels like a routine that is draining at the end of the day. And I remember that day just crying out to Him and just saying, whatever it takes, Lord, for us to surrender to You and give our lives to You, let it be it. I am tired of living like this. I'm tired of living like this without You in my life. And I just know that You are the only answer. You're the only answer. And I remember crying out to Him with my heart on my hand, literally. And I said, like, work on my marriage, work on my family, work in me, work in my husband as well, and change our lives individually and united, I waited. I got out of the car, I went to get the groceries, and I just got a pregnancy test just in case. I got home, and I ended up finding out that I am pregnant. So from the beginning, I felt it as if like this baby was like the answer to a prayer, like a blessing. And I know all children are a blessing from the Lord, because the Bible does tell us that. So if you're finding out you're pregnant, trust and believe me, no matter your circumstances, God has a plan for you and for that baby. I can guarantee you that, because no matter how hard it has been to become a mom, it's one of the most beautiful rewards that you can have in life. And I can't express that enough. So if you're going through that, trust Him. Put your faith in Him. Put your trust in Him. And so going back, I felt that, this was a blessing from God. I told my husband, actually, when I found out, I said, I want this pregnancy to be different. I want to feel loved. I want to be at peace. I want to really enjoy this pregnancy. I don't know why. I feel it's so special. And it's just like different for me. And honestly, I've been getting the exact opposite of that. Between the first test and the second test that came back positive, I was just like, I just need to hear from the doctor that everything is fine. It's like I was placing my faith on the doctor and not in God. And with this third test, to be completely honest with you, I just said, I trust my God. I trust my God with my whole heart. And whatever his will may be, will be. But I will hold on tight to his promise that all children are a blessing. And I know my child is a blessing. And I remember that prayer of asking him, whatever it takes for us to surrender to you, let it be. I don't know if it's this process of discouragement, of testing our faith, my faith specifically, because I feel like I'm in a journey of like wanting more of God. I've been feeling that crave for him, that fire for him. And yeah. And I just said, I'm going to record this whole process. I'm going to give my testimony no matter what happens, and put it out there for the world. Because sometimes we cannot rely on science only, and we can rely on facts. Sometimes, always, we have to believe in him. We have to trust him, and we don't have to let the enemy win, because that's what he wants. He wants to win. He wants to take joy from you. He wants to take things and destroy them, but God takes horrible things and he makes something beautiful out of that. So I hope this story, the process of this story, or just this one video, helps anybody. One person, I'll be happy. And the only thing I'll ask from you guys is prayer. A lot of prayer for me, for my child, for my family, because that's the only thing we need right now. Not a doctor's diagnosis, but just the Lord to do his thing. And I'll keep you guys posted.